Trolls, a movie where I'll only remember the story of the monk that rips off his head and throws it at people. Hello there, namaste. So Trolls, I actually like this concept. I like the idea of telling the tales of locations, mythologies, and trying to say about how it was butchered by a group of people coming in. And this one, it was the Christians, the smelling of the blood of Christians. Trolls would eat Christians because they're just evil and they would destroy everything. And it's like, I kind of like that dynamic. I just feel like this movie, Trolls, really doesn't do anything with it because they start killing the trolls. It really makes no sense to me. I was like, ooh, interesting concept here. Interesting way to go about it. But it felt weak because literally the only character that really stood out was the nerd who is trying to be a writer, who's writing a story about a monk who can take off his head, throw it at people as an attack, and then he takes off all his fingers and throws them at people at an attack. How do you throw fingers without fingers? I don't know, but yeah, I mean, that's something that's in the story. He's constantly referencing that, and I'm like, you know what, that's probably the only thing I'll ever remember from this film, and I will remember that. I really will. That nerd was that. I can remember that. But the movie starts off with basically a girl being led to the mountains with her father, tells her a story about the trolls, and it's like people have gotten it backwards. It's not if you see it to believe it, you believe it to see it. And then she sees the trolls frozen in the mountains because of some drinking party where they got drunk. But in the stories, the trolls are made of stone and earth and soil. So why are they frozen as mountains when they're stone, earth, and soil? A lot of it didn't make any sense if you actually think about it. But her father ends up getting put in the psych ward because he's going crazy about trolls. And she becomes a paleontologist, and the film starts off with her being Alan Grant from Jurassic Park. The chopper flies in as she's excavating a dinosaur, and then they take her off, and then she's secreted into this base to start being interrogated. And it's just like, why are you grabbing this woman out of nowhere? Why is she not being told anything? Why are you basically taking her into an intel, like a secret kind of service where nothing's allowed to be told? You're taking this woman who has no history of nothing, no concept of nothing, no sense of, keeping her mouth shut. You're taking her there, giving her all the information she wants, and then for some reason she takes charge of the whole thing. The whole thing was just absolutely ridiculous. But this was like peak woke era where women were perfect, men were bad, which is why you have the female lead, and then you have the female soldier hacker who controls everything from inside the military base. And it was just like, you have the deadbeat dad. You have to tick that note as well. You have the beta male friend who tags along being her sidekick character. Again, it was like I was watching him just like, this is so of its era. This is so of what came down the pipeline beforehand. It's so awful. And they're making a sequel? What the heck is wrong with them? But that's the thing. Even though the character, I hated her, I hated almost everything about the film, the concept itself seems pretty interesting. I mean, they could have done something about the trolls going into hiding. They could have done something about because when you actually think about it, it's like they're made of earth and stone, bone of cold, or heart of cold, bone of something, which is why you can't see them with a infrared camera or whatever it is, the heat sensing camera, because they're earth and soil. But then they have that story where they were turned to stone because they got drunk at a wedding. But they are stone. Why are they just standing there as a mountain leaning against each other? A lot of it doesn't make any sense. They could have done so much more with it, but they really they were focused on what everyone was focused on at that point in time. The lead strong-willed female character who's absolutely annoying. The nerd female character who's just there, bubbly. I didn't mind her because she doesn't really have much screen time, but she's in charge of everything because she's the smartest on computers. You had the deadbeat dad who honestly I thought was a genuinely better character than the daughter. The nerd who's a book writer who happens to be the secretary of the prime minister. And I'll always remember his book because, well, it's just so ridiculous. But that's the thing. The movie like this was just, you could tell it would have potential if it focused on its story, but its goal wasn't the story because the story's absolutely ridiculous because they're showing footprints and everyone's refusing to say footprints. It was like, and then of course, the woman, when she sits down, she's like, you guys ridiculous? They're footprints. Well, no, duh, they're footprints, but they had to wait for the woman to sit down, to dictate, to woman-splain to all the geniuses there that they're imbeciles. I mean, it was so freaking ridiculous, on point for the era of when this was made, that is just so freaking obnoxious to hear it and be like, I can't believe movies like these were actually made and greenlit, and some of them are still being made to this day. But it was just so obnoxious every time she opened her mouth because she was always right. She never did anything wrong. Because even like the little things, oh, did we ever see him out in sunlight? No, duh, it was a cloudy day anytime he'd move. It was out at night anytime he'd move. So a lot of the things that are shown as to be introduced, it's just the whole thing's stupid. The whole thing's ridiculous. Had a potential concept, which I'm hoping 2 actually does something with, because this one, they focused on doing the woman empowerment movement instead of doing the actual focus on the story. Anyway, I watch these things so you don't have to. Thank you all for watching. Talk to you next time. Toodles.
You guys got a video? It's so bad.
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Wait like that.